The defense of withdrawal under accomplice liability. Let's walk through this defense one step at a time. In order for an accomplice to effectively withdraw under the law, the accomplice must, number one, repudiate prior aid. Secondly, the accomplice must revoke prior assistance to the principal. And lastly, the accomplice must withdraw before the chain of events is in motion and becomes unstoppable, meaning that the withdrawal must happen before the crime actually occurs. So for the first element of this defense, the individual, the accomplice, must abandon prior aid. Basically, the individual does not want to be part of the crime anymore. Like, hey, I'm out. I'm going to try to do everything that I can to get rid of the assistance that I gave to the principal, like giving the principal a gun to commit the crime. And that is basically number one. Secondly, revoke prior assistance. Again, it kind of goes back to the first one. Not only does the individual must have the intent to abandon the crime itself, but must have the act of revoking prior assistance by trying to get rid of the aid given. Example, Riley and Israel, they want to commit a burglary of Lamont's house. They have this plan. They're going to do it together. Riley's an accomplice. Israel is the principal. Riley will drive Israel to the house, and Israel will actually commit the burglary. So that means that Israel is the principal because he's committing the act, the actual criminal act. Riley is the accomplice because he's aiding Israel. He's helping him by driving Israel to the home. On the drive to Lamont's house during the nighttime, Riley decides that, hey, I want to withdraw. I don't want anything to do with this. And he tells Israel, hey, I'm going to abandon this whole thing. I don't want to get in trouble anymore. I'm out. And Riley, secondly, revokes his assistance by basically turning around and driving back home, and also taking away the burglary tools that he gave to Israel to commit the crime of burglary at Lamont's house. And Riley did so before the chain of events is in motion and became unstoppable, meaning that Riley basically stopped the crime from happening before Israel committed the act of burglary. And Riley changed his mind while Israel was literally prying open Lamont's door to enter the house. It's too late, right? Because he tried to stop everything from happening basically at the time when the chain of events basically were in motion. Israel committed the crime of burglary, and basically it was unstoppable because Israel was basically committing the act of the breaking, entering of a dwelling house during the nighttime with the intent to commit a felony therein. So basically that's a situation where withdrawal won't work. But if it does it beforehand, then it will work. Lastly, some jurisdictions, like the Model Penal Code jurisdiction, will require the accomplice to notify police in a timely fashion to prevent the commission of the crime. So to satisfy this last part, basically, let's say that Riley and Israel are still trying to commit the crime of burglary at Lamont's house. Okay? But Riley, in this fact pattern, gives Israel the keys to his car and a gun. Riley doesn't drive him there. He just says, here's the keys, here's the gun, get Lamont's stuff in the home, commit the crime of burglary, get the stuff in the home, bring it back here, and we'll split the money. That is an example of him aiding Israel, the principal, to commit the crime, and he has the intent for Israel to commit the crime because, again, he's aiding him to give him these tools to do the act. Riley, in this case, must follow these three steps here if he wants to get out of the crime, but he must also notify police officers in a timely fashion, basically before Israel arrives at Lamont's house, to prevent the commission of the crime, to prevent Israel from committing the burglary at Lamont's house. So Riley gives him the keys and the gun, and Lamont's house is like 20 minutes away, but when Israel drives out of Riley's driveway, Riley says, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, and he wants to withdraw. Then this defense will be successful if he follows these three steps here, but also snitches on Israel by notifying the police before the crime actually happens. That's why doing it in a timely fashion to prevent the burglary from happening in this case will be important for Riley to not have criminal liability for that burglary.